I'm Rachel Horgan. Join me each episode as I sit down with a guest co-host covering the latest business stories in the Seattle area. We'll read the news so you don't have to. This is The Weekly. Welcome, everybody, to the 100th episode. It's also the 2-year anniversary. Somehow that lined up. But I kind of like focusing on the 100th episode. And I'm going to introduce who's sitting next to me because it is the one and only Alex Halverson, business reporter from Seattle Times. Hello, Alex.
Hey, Rachel.
And if for those that don't know, the reason why I brought Alex on in here for the 100th episode and the 2-year anniversary is because he was the first guest ever back when we didn't know what we were doing.
Absolutely.
And the first episode we recorded was in my living room on my computer. And so I wanted to bring you back to my living room. So we're sitting on my couch right now.
How far you've gone.
How far I've come, right back full circle, back to my couch. And I also, in case you hear some background noise, although he's promised not to laugh at any of our jokes, is Nick Patri. And he is the audio engineer of the pod. And then joining us later is possibly in the background might be Rob Smith. He's the executive editor of Formidable, and he was my 4th guest ever. So we're going to do a quick episode recapping the news, and then maybe a little bit of like reviewing the past 2 years at the end of the episode. And mostly we're going to toast and hang out at my house. So I was joking that I was having a guys' night tonight. So that should be fun. Okay, but before we get into the stories, Alex, I have to tell you about KUOW. I think some people know that I was on Seattle Now. You've been on KUOW.
Yes, I was on last week.
You were? Okay, were you Week in Review?
No, I was on All Things Considered talking about Jeffrey Epstein and Nathan Myhrvold.
Wow.
Yes, I was interviewed, yeah. But I have been on Week in Review and
the
Seattle Now. And,
were you on Casual Friday ever? That's what I did.
I think so, no.
Okay. I texted you earlier and I was like, are there any articles from Seattle Times you want to cover? And you're like, I'm mostly doing Epstein. I was like, I don't think I could.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I think we're good. But I was saying how I was on KOW in one of the articles. It's so fast paced, that show. And I feel like I have to be smart and insightful, but funny and all in one sentence because they move so quickly. And they give you so many articles ahead of time. And then one of them was like, we're stopping doing the penny now. And so I researched as much as I could about pennies and how many percentage of Americans use cash and how much it costs to make a penny. And then you get there and they're like, Rachel, do you have pennies? Do you like them? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And they're like, great, on to the next story. And I sound like an idiot. So anyway, I'm working on the pace of that show. Okay, so Alex, are you ready to get into the stories or anything you want to share before we do that?
I don't think so. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Well, I guess we can do this then. I was going to say what's changed in the past 2 years is that you're married now.
Yes, I am married. And I'm a tech reporter at the Seattle Times now. I think last time I was on, I was a general assignment business reporter.
Okay,
so slightly different role, same desk.
Moving
but
on up.
Not much else outside of that has changed.
Okay, fair enough. All right, we're going to do 4 stories for you today. First is the Seahawks is for sale. That story has been everywhere. And then potentially a trolley coming to Ballard. Our third story is about High Spot merging. And our last story is going to be about the Pacific Science Center to sell the IMAX theater. So the first one is Seattle Seahawks for sale. They're expected to sell for close to $7 billion. And as a reference, Paul Allen bought it in 1997 for about $200 million. So really increased in value. The sale does need to be approved by the current owner, so that would be the estate of the late Paul Allen, and 3/4 of the league's 31 other owners. I don't know how much you know about sports. Is that a common thing where all the other owners have to approve this newcomer to the group?
Yeah, it's sort of the, I think it's the policy for new ownership in the NFL. I don't know about other sports, but I remember this happened when I think the last team to sell was the Commanders in 2023. And they had to go through the same process as well. Broncos in 2022, I believe, had to do the same thing.
It's giving Mean Girls. Like, it just feels like so weird to be like, should we let her into our group? Just a reminder that Paul Allen did want all of the proceeds of the sales of his teams to go to philanthropy. Anything else from the article that stuck out to you, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of this coverage has been so fascinating to me. One article that my colleague Paul Roberts wrote was just talking about how complex this is in an estate where it's been really complex. I mean, Paul Allen passed away in 2018, so it's been over 7 years, almost 8 years that they've had to untangle his estate, a lot of it going toward charitable funds. And the Seahawks sale could end up being like one of the more complicated pieces to unravel. There's the NFL aspect of it. There's the who's going to buy it. which is just like fueled so much speculation.
Yeah.
I feel like every time I go on the internet, there's like a new headline that's like Jeff Bezos will buy the Seahawks, and then you read it and you're like, oh, this isn't like rooted in anything.
No.
This is someone just tweeted, hey, what if Jeff Bezos bought the Seahawks? And it's going to be like that for months or until they sell it. But no, I find it really fascinating. I mean, it seems like crazy that it coincided with the Super Bowl win. It's also been weird that it's been having to sell for the past 8 years and just hasn't been yet. So I'm excited to see who buys it or group or I don't know.
Do you know who you want to buy it? Any like wild guesses?
I think if you're a fan, what you would want is someone like Jody Allen, who's pretty hands off, right? And Paul Allen was like that too. Like the NFL is like littered with owners who like think of themselves as like general managers and like want to be like Jerry Jones in Dallas. Like he's like feels like he's part of the team and he meddles a lot. Whereas like, I don't know, if I'm a Seahawks fan, like I want someone who like just puts money toward the team and like does not touch it.
Silent partner. What about that woman that what is it, Colts, where she's like down on the field taking notes because she wants to be like an involved owner?
Yes, and I
like that.
I kind of like that too. But then the Colts kind of suck. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
touche. All right, we're gonna move on. Unless you have anything else.
No, I don't think so. I mean, just reiterating again, it's going to be fascinating to see how complicated this gets. I think so. Yeah. As journalists, it's going to be fun to cover.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I like this one. I'm excited about it. Seattle only has 2 of these vintage George Benson streetcars. Please go look them up. They're so cute. And business leaders are wanting to bring them back. The path is about 1.5 miles in Ballard. It's mostly along, how do you say, Shilshole? I always say that wrong. Between Ballard Locks and Ballard Blocks. There are already rails there. They already exist. That's what they want to do this path. But those rails were meant for freight. And so it's been a few years, so they need to upgrade them to be able to carry passengers. And I imagine probably some upgrades to the trolley. They are estimating that this project will cost $5 million. And they don't see it as a moneymaker. This isn't something that they want to profit off of. They're kind of seeing it as like maybe breaking even, but it could bring a lot of tourism and excitement to Ballard. The one other thing I was going to say that might be holding them up besides getting this $5 million, raising the money, is that the city owns the rail and the Ballard Terminal Railroad is leasing from the city. And so they have to renew the lease before it expires in 2027.
Oh, so we're going to get into some classic Byzantine Seattle bureaucracy here over how can we accomplish this when so many hands are involved.
It does sort of sound like a Christmas Hallmark movie.
yes.
Save the old Ballard trolley.
Well, honestly, what blew my mind about I read the Puget Sound Business Journal article on this. Apparently there was one on the downtown Seattle waterfront from 1982 to 2005.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
I grew up in the Seattle area. I don't remember that trolley. Maybe I didn't spend enough time on the waterfront. I don't remember at all. I think it's a really cool idea. Yeah. I'm all about adding these things that, I don't know, add like texture to your city, like make people want to go to certain areas. Now, I do think they face an uphill battle when the person in charge of it is like, this is not a moneymaker.
Why do you, because you think?
Well, you're just going to have so many people who think of themselves as like fiscally responsible people whining about it, especially in an area where our actual like transportation rail projects are going over budget, taking a long time. I'm sure there's going to be voices that are like, we can't even accomplish like, what Sound Transit wants to do, or like, oh my God, look at the streetcars in like South Lake Union that no one rides. So I think there's going to be opposition of voices like that, especially when the person in charge of it's like, best case scenario is we break even. But
yeah, they're like, we're not going to help you with their silly little
truck. I don't have to worry about the money, so I want it.
I want it too. Yeah. What do you think about the relationship between the city? Because it does say it's supposed to be like a private-public partnership. Have you any take on how the city is working with businesses? Any of the stories that you're covering lately? Is it kind of a contentious relationship with this new city council, or do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I feel like people sort of ride the winds with that. I feel like this is a really unpopular opinion I kind of have because people want to be so
I love
anti or pro city council, and I'm like, one, they don't have as much power as like people kind of think they do. Sure. And 2, I don't think they're as anti-business or as pro-business as people chalk it up as sometimes. So I don't know. I don't have a huge opinion on that, but
no, I think it's a valid point. And I think sometimes we just see the headlines and we're not there for the discussion and all the extremist stuff. But yeah, okay. Well, here's to hoping we have a trolley.
Hope so. I love Ballard, and I don't know if you had a trolley through there. Like my parents love Ballard, they would be on that thing all the time.
For sure. All right, we're going to move on to our third story. High Spot merger. Seattle's High Spot is merging with San Diego's company called Seismic, which is a competitor of theirs. What does High Spot do?
Much love to the people at High Spot, by the way.
I've heard of the company. I'll say that.
Yes.
And I feel like I know people. I've met people that work there. Alex and I were like, "What do they do?" It is, and my best guess is that it's a software that helps train salespeople. So like role playing videos. I'm picturing like the when you first get hired and it's like sexual harassment videos. I'm picturing that, but for how to sell.
I think you're on the right track. Yes. You grabbed the story from GeekWire on this merger. I looked around at other places. I found one from the San Diego Union Tribune, which covered it because Seismic is based down there. And they say, I thought this was good. Seismic is basically Google for work. And I was like, okay, I can kind of get that. Sales teams can ask the software questions about products and specific accounts, analyze sales performance. And then HighSpot is like a sales coach that uses AI to watch what's happening with customers and content, and then tells employees what to do next.
Yeah, it's more of a coaching. I'm guessing it might be a competitor to Gong. Gong like listens to your sales calls and is like, you talk too much.
That makes sense. And from what I can tell is like these two have been competitors over the past few years. Like maybe they don't sell the exact same products and maybe they go into different areas. But it does seem like a case of two software turn kind of AI companies merging together that have been competitors for a while.
Yeah, and I want to bring up that the Seismic CEO will lead the combined company, but the HighSpot CEO will join the board. So they're both staying on in leadership roles, but one will be the CEO.
Which I find really interesting because, like, you know, you cover this so often, like, people always try to, like, pitch every acquisition as, like, a merger to, I don't know, make it seem more equal or something. Like, you hear that so often, especially when a big company buys a small company.
Right, like
you'll hear the word
top in this relationship.
You'll hear the word merger thrown around. It's like, look, I don't think Microsoft is merging with that. I think they are gobbling them up. The reporting on this seems to suggest this is like a true merger. I don't know, the fallout
conscious, like a equivalent of a conscious uncoupling. Like they both broke up.
yes.
But got together, I guess. That analogy doesn't quite always
workshop that.
Yeah, we'll workshop it.
But, you know, I guess, like, and GeekWire and other outlets have, you know, obviously they did the due diligence and asked, but, you know, wait to see on this is like going to be, do they then reduce like workforce? Do they de-emphasize their footprint in Seattle or de-emphasize in San Diego? Like which companies
where his headquarters going to be
comes out on top in a way? So I think going forward, that's what like people would be either aware of or monitoring.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I wasn't surprised to see because I think we're seeing a lot more mergers and acquisitions in the Trump administration. I don't know if these two are big enough companies for anyone to care if they merge, but
and I think you're going to see more consolidation, like around software companies. Like, who knows where AI takes us and like how good the technology gets or what sort of industry it starts to erode. But writing on the wall, like right now, is like software companies. You know, the true blue software companies are like kind of looking at themselves and being like, okay, how do we approach this future? Is that through consolidation? Is that through totally pivoting our products? Is that through, you know, reduction and retreating? And, you know, it seems like they went with the consolidation route.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Our last article is Pacific Science Center to sell IMAX Theater. So it's the Boeing IMAX Theater, not the Packard IMAX Theater. But the Boeing IMAX Theater opened way back in 1979 and it was renovated in 2015. But now they're selling it to the Space Needle. So Space Needle will acquire 25% of Pacific Science Center campus, which includes that Boeing IMAX Theater. Pacific Science Center said it's just tough to operate a theater. I think we've heard that a lot. And they also needed funds to do some upgrades to their campus, like we were talking about before we started recording. So the theater will close for a bit to do some renovations and will reopen in May. Do you have any initial thoughts on this, Alex?
There's too much change at the Pacific Science Center.
From a homegrown boy, you missed it.
They got rid of the dinosaur exhibit, which I was obsessed with as a kid. But outside of that, I think it's been interesting how kind of forthright they were in what drove this. And I think the sort of latter part of that statement, like obviously, yes, it is hard to operate a theater, but I think that point about selling parts of its campus so that it doesn't have to, you know, pay for the upgrades or anything. And just, you know, financially, Pacific Science Center was hit during the pandemic and it's been hard to sort of recoup that as a nonprofit. And so I think they're sort of looking at it is the less we control, the more we can, focus on and improve, rather than having this big sprawling campus that we can't get our hands around financially. And it's not like they sold to some group based out of like New York or Toronto or whatever. It's literally next door.
Right.
So it seems like they picked a good partner, but it just felt like the financial reality of keeping Pacific Science Center going.
What do you see the future of Seattle Center?
I mean, I hope it sticks around. I don't know.
I think we got the new Memorial Stadium coming.
Got the new Memorial Stadium, and I like Climate Pledge Arena is such a big deal in that district. Like, Pacific Science Center, maybe it goes through more changes where it's selling off little chunks of it, or maybe it keeps, it as is. But the Seattle Center is, I don't know, such an important like civic icon.
Yeah.
That you'd hope that a lot of parties would put their heads together and keep it going. It's a great meeting place, whether it's for like political movements or concerts or
bumper shoot
festivals. I saw Death Cab for Cutie there for free in 2013. It was amazing.
Love that.
And I just nostalgically, I have a lot of memories around Seattle Center, and that's something you want to keep going for a long time.
Definitely. Do you want to talk about the article that you just wrote?
Oh,
we don't have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we both.
Okay, so Alex came over and was like, "I just need a minute," and because he's writing his front page.
I don't know.
We don't know. Okay, we don't know. I can't say that. Potentially front page article in the Seattle Times, which is so cool. I'm so proud of you. But it's kind of an interesting story, and I hadn't heard about it, obviously, because I hadn't seen it yet. But do you want to say a little bit more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I had not actually covered the initial part of it a few years ago, but a decision was made today on it, so I covered it. Basically, between, I don't know the exact dates, but 2020 to roughly 2021, 2022, people were dying by suicide after buying a chemical called sodium nitrite from Amazon. They were selling it in highly concentrated forms. What it's usually used for is food preservation in really low doses, right? And other sort of, food manufacturing and stuff. And it's really harmless that way. But in a high concentration, if you ingest it, it can cause death pretty immediately. And so what was happening is multiple people, young adults, teenagers, had ingested it and then died. And so then the families started suing Amazon over, basically a negligence claim, wrongful death, trying to make Amazon liable for it.
Which gets a little complicated because, you can't sue the rope company. If somebody hangs them, you can't sue. But your story gets a little more interesting.
Yeah, and there was this, so the lawsuits, they get filed, and Amazon's defense is, hey, this is really tragic. We're sorry for the families. We can't help what people misuse, a product bought on Amazon. Amazon has since prohibited selling that high concentrated of sodium nitrate to anybody who's not a verified commercial business. But they did try to get the case dismissed. There was 10 lawsuits, and the initial one they tried to get dismissed. And the Court of Appeals in Washington granted that. And there was this sort of what was known as like a suicide rule. Basically, if suicide's the superseding cause of death, then a company can't be liable because that person, took their own life. And so then the families brought it to the Washington State Supreme Court, which ruled today in a unanimous concurring opinion. They didn't find Amazon liable. That wasn't the point of their ruling. Basically, they said the lawsuits can go on and go to trial, because if what the plaintiffs are alleging are, the facts as they know it, a jury trial gets to decide whether Amazon is liable for this. And they pointed to a few things. One was, Amazon had been warned about people consuming this after buying it on their site. And then one of the plaintiffs alleged that through Amazon's algorithm, it's very smart, and it was when people would buy sodium nitrite, it was suggesting other frequently bought items together. An anti-nausea medicine so that you wouldn't regurgitate back up the sodium nitrite. A handbook that was labeled as a suicide handbook. Wow. And then small scales for measuring stuff out. So the justices did point to that and say, hey, these are reasonable things that basically this case shouldn't be dismissed outright. It can go to a trial, and that's where it'll have its final say. So
I feel like we're hearing some of this too with Meta and Instagram and social media and the impact. What is the responsibility of a business and the product that they put out and the impact that they're having on people, in whether that's suicide or mental health or what have you? And I think we as a society are trying to figure out who to hold accountable and how.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does make it trickier when mental health is so nuanced. Like, this wasn't a product that they opened the box and it got them in the face or whatever. Like, these people were taking their own lives. So, that's where that sort of suicide rule comes in. Right. But again, the plaintiffs were arguing, Amazon, they said, they accused them of knowingly selling a product to vulnerable people. Is sort of the basis of it.
Yeah.
So that's where they are arguing the liability lies. So it'll be, obviously it's a great tragedy for it's 28 families affected, over 10 lawsuits. So we'll see where it goes now. The lawsuits have been filed in King County Superior Court, and it'll likely go to trial.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think will reflect and impact other cases.
Absolutely, yeah. And you wonder, what's going to be the case law for this sort of precedent
yeah,
it sets, how far reaching into tech it goes, right?
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to do a little bit of recap from the 2 years and the 100th episode type thing. So we will be right back with Alex. We're back here, and as I mentioned, I'm sitting here with Alex Halverson, tech reporter for the Seattle Times, and over here we have Nick Patri, audio engineer for the weekly Seattle podcast, and we have Rob Smith, executive editor of Formidable. And we're going to close out the episode with some fun stuff since it is the 100th episode and 2-year anniversary. I'm kind of fun how that coincided. So not everybody has to answer, but do you have a favorite episode from the past year? I know I have one, but Nick, do you want to go first?
I'd love to go first. My favorite episodes are always the ones where I'm there for them, which is not always happening. But one of the ones this past year was with Caitlin from Yonder. We were in the studio. She brought Yonder for us to drink while we were recording. I mean, doesn't get much better than that. Yes. Rachel said my opinion can be bought, which is true. And she also talked about running a small business in the midst of tariffs and the world we're living in now. And I thought that was an interesting perspective to get on the show. So yeah, that was my favorite. What about yours, Rachel?
Thanks for asking. We're sharing a mic. Thanks for asking. I liked the episode on the business of death, which was a guest who legalized human cremation, and it's legalized because of her, and it started in Washington, and now there's 14 other states that do it. So that was
cremation or composting.
What am I saying? Composting.
Yes, which is fascinating. That was a great episode.
Thank you. The champagne has hit me.
Oh, you're good.
Composting. Thank you. And I just feel like sometimes when we think about business news, we think about Amazon and AI and tech, and there's this whole section of business that we don't always talk about, and that was the business of death. So that was my favorite. Alex, do you?
Well, I don't want to copy you, but that was a fantastic episode. No, outside of that, I mean, with the one with Joey Thompson, because that's my guy.
Our buddy.
I got to go with that. Yes.
For those who don't know, all three of us worked together at PSBJ.
We did. Yes,
that was a fun one. And Rob, what do I don't know if you listened to all of them, so it's okay if you don't have an answer.
Any one of the episodes with Alex.
Yes.
No, seriously, the one that really spoke to me the most for very personal reasons was when you had the manager of the Olympic Athletic Club.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about the business of the gym. I'm there 5 days out of the week, and to hear him just talk about the business of the gym was really fascinating to me.
Yeah. I ended up joining that gym. He gave me a free month, and I didn't ask him to do the podcast because of that, but then when we were there, I was like, wow, I'm not a part of a gym. This is cool. Can you give me a tour? I would love to work out here. So I did hint at it a little bit.
And how many times a week are you there?
Okay, so here's the thing. I went quite a bit in January, and I had this moment where I was like, am I going to the gym too much? It's almost unhealthy. And I was like, these people are probably like, oh my God, there's that girl again. And I was like, I should probably get different clothes. And so I went to the app to see how many times I went in the 31 days of January. 8 times. I went 8 times. For those counting, that's not too much. Some might say not enough. So anyway, felt like a lot to me. Okay, so our next question is the question I was asking this past year of all my guests was, what do you do to get motivated to do your job when you just don't feel like it? Does anybody have an answer, Alex?
I don't know how to say anything other than, I don't know, put one step in front of the other. No, I don't know. One thing that really helps me is think about the wins, or think about the times when the job felt really fun, and just no, okay, that could be right around the corner. And for reporters, I'm sure it's always different. It's you had a story that had a big impact, or you got a really big scoop, and a bigger paper had to cite you. Those things always feel like wins. Or sometimes if I'm in the midst of a really hard enterprise story and it's taking months to report and write, and I'm getting writer's block, and I can think of okay, but when it's done, I'm going to feel so fulfilled, and I'm going to feel that thing I felt the last time I was feeling this crappy. So
You're
I
just addicted to the high.
maybe, yeah. And just like knowing that that high will come. And maybe it's a few months, maybe it's a few weeks, maybe it's, the next day, but it will come.
Yeah.
I think that helps me.
Yeah. Rob?
Well, my late mother would be very surprised, but I make my bed.
Oh.
When I get out of bed, I make my bed, and my mom and my dad used to tell me when I was a kid, it'll get your day off, you've accomplished something, and it just gets you going. And I scoffed at it until I was older, and now I actually make my bed, and then I spend a little bit of time making it and smoothing everything out, and I actually feel like I accomplished something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a weird motivating factor.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. And it's proven. Nick?
Mine, I work from home almost every day. And so when I'm in a rut, I really feel like I just need to get into a different space, like physical space. So whether that's going for a walk or going to a coffee shop, library, whatever it may be.
I agree with that. I like changing the scenery. My trick is I listen to the Social Network soundtrack. So every year it's on my top 5 because I lock in, and for some reason I feel like I'm coding like the next biggest. I'm just like writing a script. I'm not doing anything crazy. It's that. And then I was going to say, over the past year when I've been asking guests that, the common thread, a lot of people say going outside and working out or going for a walk or moving your body. But one of my favorites was once I asked somebody that, and I was like, what do you do when you just don't feel like your job? She's like, I just don't. It's like, what she meant was like, if you're really stuck, like take a break, step away, don't do that task right now. But I liked her answer was like, I just don't do it. But anyway, anything else to add? And Alex?
No, I think Rob's is really good. And like piggybacking on that, especially in the age of like hybrid work or remote work, like finding a routine really helps for me. I feel like the weeks where I fall out of the routine, I'm waking up later than I normally would, or I'm not making my bed or whatever. I'm leaving dishes in the sink. Those are like the weeks where, it affects like work and I feel unmotivated. But then when I fall back into the routine, I don't know, 9 to 5 feels a lot easier, or at least more well-oiled or something.
Yeah. Well, a cluttered house is a cluttered mind.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what they say.
And an empty desk is an empty mind. So.
Oh. Yikes. Okay, the last one we'll do. I guess I just wanted to spend a minute on anniversaries because this is also the second anniversary, and I think thank you. I think it's important to pause and reflect. And Alex, you were saying you don't typically take a moment to reflect. So what's everyone's kind of opinions on anniversaries, whether it's personal or professional? How do you guys celebrate them or not?
It's something I should be better at, reflecting. Obviously, I like the big ones, birthdays, anniversaries with partners, but I never stop and think like, oh, it's been a year since I joined this new job, or oh, it's been a month since I put out that hard story. And I think it's good to be reflective. It's just not really like a natural tendency of mine. Yeah. So, we're in the new year and I didn't reflect on the previous year. So maybe that'll be my New Year's resolution, is to be more reflective.
You're not like a 6-month half birthday kind of.
No, for me, it's more like, when did that happen? Oh, the other day? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to need you to write down your wedding date.
See, those I can remember.
Yeah.
We're good on that. That.
Rob, what about you?
Well, I think I'm the one who needs to write down my wedding date, because I actually remember a lot of things and I can remember certain dates, but I don't really reflect on them like you were saying, Alex, like this is important, but I remember them. What I don't remember is my anniversary. I've been married now for almost 8 years, and our last anniversary, it was 2 days after the date in November, and one of our friends said, "What'd you do for your anniversary?" And we both looked at each other and said, it was our anniversary 2 days ago. Well, so.
Yeah. I like it. I think any reason to throw a party, any reason to celebrate, and especially because I think we celebrate certain things a lot, like the wedding or the baby, but to celebrate, I know you just joined a new company and you got your promotion, kind of making sure that we're taking the time to celebrate that. So I like them. What about you, Nick?
I don't have any.
You don't like them? Pass. You've done really good. You spoke a lot on this episode. Good job. All right, we're going to wrap it up because Nick's got to edit all of our shenanigans out of this. But I so appreciate all my boys coming over to my house to record this episode. Once again, thank you to Alex Halverson, reporter for Seattle Times, Nick Patri, audio engineer for The Weekly, and Rob Smith with Formidable. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
This has been The Weekly, with production assistance from Nick Patri. If you liked what you heard, rate us and write a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. We love listener feedback, so if you have any story suggestions, comments, or complaints, email us at info@emcee.com. theweeklyseattle.com. Make sure to check back next Sunday for the latest local business news. We'll see you next time.